Feel so refreshed now, right? Ready to hear two more folks. So now we get to hear from Alicia Garza from Power, People Organized to Win Employment Rights. Born and raised in the Bay Area, Alicia has organized local communities of color for racial and economic justice for the past 7 years. As co-executive director, Alicia supports Power staff and members to build the power of working class communities of color by coordinating the growth of a sustainable, dynamic organization that is ready to meet the challenges of this new era. Let's hear it for Alicia.
Wow, there is a lot of y'all. Okay, so good evening. Can y'all hear me? Like all the way in the back? Yeah. Okay, cool. So my name is Alicia, and I wanted to talk with y'all a little bit about why would a racial and economic justice organization go up to Occidental Arts and Ecology Center for 2 weeks, right, and learn about permaculture, and how are we doing that in our work right now? And specifically, the question that I've been asked to kind of take on a little bit is the question of how the framework and the principles of permaculture are useful in developing community preparedness and material resiliency, right? So like, what's the nitty-gritty? To do that, I think I need to do just a little tiny bit of context. Folks talked about this already. Most of us, right, are working in communities that are disenfranchised from resources that we need to survive. That's basic. Everybody, you get that, right? Okay, cool. And then the framework and the principles of permaculture, like the brother said, I don't know where he went, they don't just need to be rooted in like the crunchy granola kind of framework, right? Like that's awesome, right? But that's something that we've been separated from, and that was intentional, right? So we don't need to go through the history again, but we know about colonization, we know about imperialism, right? And we know that these are skills that people have used to survive for centuries and centuries and centuries, and now we're in a situation where we don't know where our food comes from, right? So that's just the basic. So earth care, people care, and fair share mean very basic things for our neighborhoods. Earth care, right? Just taking care of our surroundings in a way that encourages reciprocity. Not extraction, not consumption, and not production just for itself, right? People care, right? Making sure that all people's basic needs are met. It's very simple. Caring for the earth, right? Unlike some of the models that we've seen, right, that we may be used to, it's not just about plants and animals, right? We live here too. And so we need to figure out how do we live in community, right, with plants, with animals, with water, right? That's what we're here to do. And fair share, right, making sure that all of those resources are being distributed equitably, right? And that those principles of distribution are rooted in our principles for social justice, right? When we talk about racial justice, when we talk about economic justice, when we talk about gender justice, or whatever kind of justice you want to talk about, we have to find out what does distribution look like under that, right? We're not just talking about taking it away from the rich and giving everything to the poor, right? We're actually talking about a transformation that we have to kind of pull out and really concretize. Also not new to you, right? In our communities, our local governments are already doing that. They're already prioritizing where resources should or should not go. We're all clear about that? Anybody like, I didn't know that? So people talked about the US Social Forum, and in Detroit, right, it's a really good example of how local governments, right, are determining where resources go and don't go. And right now, communities in Detroit are fighting a plan called right sizing, right? Where essentially what they want to do, because there's a lack of resources, is they want to unincorporate particular areas of Detroit and quote unquote right size it, right? We've heard it called a bunch of things. Some people call it urban renewal, some people call it Negro removal, some people call it redevelopment. You can call it whatever you want, it ain't right. So, basically what that means for folks right now is that you have to survive for yourself, right? And so we're not talking about the TV show Survivor, right? We're not talking about getting dropped on an island mysteriously and having to figure out how to make it work. We're talking about you live in a metropolitan area and they're like, we're not providing water for you anymore, work it out. We're not providing energy for you anymore, work it out, right? So this is what is happening right now. So I'm not trying to do the scare tactic thing where I'm like, it's all going down. Like, it's happening right now. And it's gonna happen in other cities, right? And it's happening in other cities. And it's time for us to figure out what we're gonna do. So, We know that local governments everywhere, Oakland notwithstanding, right, are scrambling for resources. That is real. Oakland's not getting resources from the state, right? And then the state is going, we don't get any resources either because the feds are spending it, bombing people and killing people all over the world, right? We also know very basically that we have enough resources here on this planet to take care of every single person at least 3 times over, all around the world, right? So, permaculture for the people, or liberation permaculture, right, is important for us to adopt and to do it quickly, right? We don't really have a choice. And so for Power in our work, we're taking these principles and trying to think about how do we actually upgrade our organizing model to meet the current challenges of right now. We're personally in the first stages of trying to attack the root causes of food insecurity in Bayview Hunters Point. People know where Bayview is? Yeah. Anybody like, I don't know where that is?
I don't know where that is.
Okay, I don't know where that is. That's great. Southeast sector of San Francisco. Most San Franciscans even probably couldn't tell you where Bayview Hunters Point is. At least the new ones, right? Old folks know. Old industrial area, right? Has the best weather in the city. Mission folks can fight with me about that, but it's true. It's true. Has the most beautiful views in all of San Francisco, right? Has also been degraded by, degraded by toxic waste, lack of food, right? No grocery stores. You have like chain stores that are like the Ross of grocery stores, right? It's like where all the stuff that people don't want goes to, and then people buy it, yeah? We also had a situation in the neighborhood where in the last 5 years they've closed at least 6 schools, right? And it's got the highest concentration of children under the age of 18. So we know that there's empty schools. We know that property is just sitting there. So we are working with the school district and saying open up those properties to community organizations so that we can provide for basic needs, right? So what we hope to do this November is pass a policy through the school district saying we want to start some pilot programs. We want to start at Gloria R. Davis, right? Huge school on the hill. We want to use that property, bring in community organizations who are ready to get to work and say, hey, let's build a community garden, right? We were incredibly inspired in Detroit where we saw people had just plots, like this is where you live, right? Here's my corner right here. And they built gardens, and they don't have fences, there's no times, you know what I'm saying? Like you can come between 8 and 6, it's not like that. It's like, yo, if you work it, you can eat, right? We want to do the same thing, and we're negotiating with the district right now. They're saying, well, we really want to make sure that it's available to the school. We're like, that's awesome, and all the people that live around that school also need to eat, and they need to have access to that. That principle is the problem is the solution. Right? So basically that means turning constraints into resources. We also hope, right, that that's going to lead to some other stuff, the succession of evolution, where certain elements prepare the way for systems to support other elements in the future. We hope that what that will do will actually launch some small-scale distribution programs, right? So we know every hood has somebody who knows how to hook up cable and they don't work with Comcast, right? We know every single hood has a little candy store and it's out of somebody's apartment. You know, you want chips, you want candy, you can come to so-and-so's house and get that, right? Fireworks, whatever it is, right? Well, what if people could do that with vegetables? What if people knew how to hook up water catchment systems? Just like they know how to hook up cable. That's what we're trying to do. So, again, we can use these principles to adapt our organizing model to fit the new context that we live in. And we can use these basic skills like water catchment, seed saving, composting, remediation with mushrooms. Are you kidding? That was awesome. To create alternatives based on what already exists, right? We want to fight for resources, but we also know we got to figure out how to do it ourselves, right? So the question that we're trying to attack is how do we shape our communities in a way that meets all of our needs? And permaculture gives us a way to do that in a liberated fashion and gives us a way to create the culture that we want to see in our neighborhoods.